computer. There we go. I think that's working. So they will be all recorded. So if you can't come, I know that this is the week before your next term starting. So for those who are doing coursework, it's going to be maybe hard for you to come live. Know that they are recorded, but obviously being here live is really helpful. The way in which I want to run it is that you can be asking questions if you want to use the message bar or just shout out, it's no problem. I want to make sure that this can be as interactive as possible. And being here live, you get the benefit out of asking me those questions. So what we're going to do over the next 3 weeks is I've set it up. It's kind of a very simple step-by-step process that we're going to go through. And this is the reason why it's called Foundations is that it's really a very small course or webinar, whatever you want to call it, that's going to teach you the really important skills and tools that you can use no matter where you are in your financial journey. Or, you know, it could be for somebody who's just starting out and has had no financial literacy training at all, or it could be somebody who, you know, has investments and has investment properties and is quite, you know, mature in terms of their financial literacy. So no matter where you are, no matter what kind of financial decisions you're facing at the moment or you're working through, the tools, the worksheets that you should all have received in your confirmation email yesterday are what we're going to work through. So this week we're going to look at making sure that you've got a really good understanding of where you are financially, because unless you know where you are, you're not going to then be able to make wise financial decisions. So really important to be able to know exactly where you are financially. Next week, we're going to then look at, well, where do you want to be? You know, setting financial goals. How can you do that? And we're going to do it all through this Excel worksheet that I've sent out to you. So once you're then clear about what the goal is that you're trying to achieve, and they're going to be really individual depending on your circumstances, but the tool that we're using, these financial wellbeing worksheets, will help you to work through this. And then the final one is obviously then working out how are you going to get there. So looking at strategies for you to be able to achieve those financial goals. So come back into, there we go. Just quickly, Craig did introduce me, just a little bit of background in terms of who I am. So yes, I work here at Southern Cross University. I'm a unit assessor. I teach management accounting, managerial accounting, advanced management accounting. So I'm a CPA. My background is in accounting. And some of you might go, oh, I really don't like numbers, or accountants are boring, or whatever, which is perfectly fine. But the field of accounting that I worked in is probably more of a social science and less of hardcore, you know, following rules. It's all about supporting managers within a business to make wise financial decisions. And the way that you do that is by helping them to have information, which we're going to work through in these sessions. Really important to have really good quality information about your financial situation, and then ways and mechanisms for making financial decisions. So I've worked across a number of you know, big corporate organizations as a management accountant, supporting the decision makers around how to use their financial resources effectively. So a lot of those skills and are what I will use and help you with in terms of improving your financial well-being. I'm also a qualified financial counsellor, so that's partly some of my assistance that I can provide to you as students as well. If you want some of those one-on-one sessions, is as a financial counsellor, if you are working through any challenges or creditors or things like that as well. In addition to having more of a financial well-being perspective as well, are the areas in which I can help. So it's with all of that I'm hoping that I can bring to you some resources. I'm someone that you can ask questions about. You can obviously have book sessions with me. You can ask questions in these sessions or any upcoming other financial topics that we go through. So I'm here, I'm available. I'm sort of the resident go-to for the SCPA if you've got any sort of you know, questions around your finances. But in saying that, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm never going to give you any advice about, I'm not aligned to any products. I don't sell any financial instruments. I'm really here more as a support in terms of helping you to think through a situation, asking questions, guiding and supporting you, more of an educator and a counselor as opposed to a financial advisor. So important that we make that distinction. All right, so let's get into the core piece of this session tonight. So what's really important, and I know that many of financial well-being is such a big topic at the moment. It's a buzzword that's used a lot, but really the key thing, and that's the central purpose of these 3 sessions, and it's my hope for what you'll gain out of it, is that by understanding your financial position, you can bring more calm and confidence to your relationship with money, and that you can make more informed decisions and also seek help, but be quite clear about the help that you need when you are seeking it. So that's really, really important as well. So I'm hoping that through these sessions, you're going to feel much more calm and confident about your financial situation, no matter what it is. It's better to know where you are and then make some plans as, to working out where you want to be. So to do that, we're going to work through the financial wellbeing worksheets, and I'm assuming that everybody has got them. Did everybody receive them yesterday? If you want to just, maybe add in the middle message bar just to confirm that you've got them. So the financial wellbeing worksheets are what I'm going to jump into in a minute once I kind of talk through the key parts of them. Great, thanks Susan for confirming. Has anybody had a look at them? Yeah, maybe had a little bit of a look. Does anybody not like Excel? Hi, Maida, as well. I think I've seen you just join in now. And your mic might still be on as well. I can hear a little bit of background noise. Happy to answer a question if you've got one at the minute. No, all good. And just a reminder too, if you do have questions as I'm going through this, just please shout out. I'm happy for you to interrupt me. So what I've done is try to create a structure, which is really what I would follow as a management accountant. But if you look to any personal finance textbooks or units or teaching financial literacy, this structure is what this is the process that you would go through. So as I explained earlier, you would identify and understand where you are financially at this current moment, define where you want to go, set a financial goal for yourself, and then look at how am I actually going to achieve that goal. So our central focus tonight is really in understanding where you are financially. And for some of you, I know
everything lesson for modern media. It's time to review what you've learned, test your understanding,
so I don't know
your listening, and practice responding quickly and automatically.
Can't see who.
Be sure to use a loud, confident voice when you speak. You'll know you've mastered the lessons when you can answer each question correctly and can use everything you've learned.
I think that was Medea. I've just tried to mute them. Okay, all good. So understanding this can be a hard task for some people, depending on where you're at with your financial situation. And obviously, there's a lot of money is not just about the dollars and cents. It's a lot about the emotional relationship that you have with it, the experience that you've had through your life so far, how you saw money being dealt with, as you were growing up as a child. It can bring up all sorts of things for different people. And that's why it's really important to not only I guess, honor this process, particularly this first step, and take your time depending on where you're at. And, it's really important that you're obviously the first step here that I've got noted is that you're going to create your own personal balance sheet. And to anyone, who's not an accountant, I'm not expecting you to be. A balance sheet is essentially outlining what it is that you owe and what do you own. And obviously the net of that indicates whether you have debt or whether you have more assets than you owe. So that's what you're going to do first, is look at your personal balance sheet. And I will jump across to the worksheets after I explain these to make it really clear for everyone. And my hope is that after tonight's session, you'll feel really confident to use those worksheets and actually work through them as we do them over the next 3 weeks. And I get that's where students will gain the most benefit out of this. So as I've gone through it tonight, at the end of the session, if you've got time, you might be able to work through the particular parts that we'll go through. So the first thing is that detailing that. What is it that you owe? What do you own? And I'll get into the details of that in a minute. The next bit is also to reflect and take notes about some of your inner resources in terms of your financial life and your relationship with money. So really important that we acknowledge not only the dollars and the cents, but also a lot of people will come at their finances usually with most of the time it's negative feelings. So not feeling like it's enough, or that you'll perhaps criticize yourself, that there are some behaviors that you have that don't feel like that they're positive. So really important at first when we're working through this is to take note of not only the things that you may want to change, but also some of the positive experiences, skills, even the subject matter areas where you're all studying at the moment. You're developing all sorts of different skills, and some of which people will often think, oh, it's got nothing to do with money, they're not transferable, I'm really bad at maths, I don't like numbers, I don't like Excel. I just find it too hard. I don't want to do anything about it. But there's a lot of skills that you would have learned through problem solving, even skills in creativity, that are really, really relevant and important to developing a more healthy relationship with money. So what I'd like everyone to be able to do is also take note and take stock of where you are in terms of some of those softer skills around your financial life as well, and acknowledge those. So there's a section in the worksheets in which you'll do that as well. So the first bit is really about looking at, okay, what are the financial resources that I have at the moment, that I'm currently stewarding and that I'm currently looking after, and need to make some, good decisions about how they're going to look after me and fuel the dreams that I have, things that I want to experience in my life. But also some of those, inner resources as well. So it's even some of the more softer things in terms of, your ability to be disciplined, or, times for which you were very disciplined. And it may feel like, well, in the domain of my financial life, I'm not very disciplined, but it's really helpful to look at some of the other domains and draw upon those skills and say, well, hold on, when I'm maybe looking after myself in terms of exercise or eating well or studying and growing my mind and personal development, I'm really good at doing this. And then think about how, okay, that skill is really important for my financial life too. And I would like to bring more of that into my financial life. So just making the space for you to kind of think through some of that as well is a really important starting point. And then the third section at this first part is to also then create a personal income statement. So again, an accounting term, but it's really simple. It's really looking at where is your money coming from and where is it going. So really important to look back at the past 12 months. And I know that for many people, you might say, well, that's a bit of a wasted exercise because the next 12 months aren't going to be the same, for whatever reason. Maybe you've reduced some of your work to study, or maybe it's the opposite. But what's really important in doing this is that when you look back and you see, okay, this is all the money that's come in. And the easiest way to do this bit is, obviously internet banking is going to be your best friend, downloading transactions. It can feel like it's a tiring exercise, but this first part will probably take the most amount of your time. But it is the most important step, having this knowledge and understanding of yourself, where you are with your finances currently, some of your emotions and experiences and skills around it. And then also being able to look back at the past 12 months and say, okay, this is where my money's come from. This is, the currently the job that you were doing, or where you were earning your income, if it was student allowance or whatever it might have been. And this was where my money went to. Because it's from there that you're going to be able to then start to see and look at what is it that you might want to change. It will inform some of the financial goals that you're going to set when we get to next week. So really, really important, this first step in working through these three particular sections. So to do that, the worksheets that you have are there to support you to do that. So the first tab, so I'll take you through it here on the slides, and then I'll jump across to the Excel. So third time, nice teaching rule, just to make sure that you can navigate it all and feel confident to be able to go away and do this yourself. So the first piece is in the first tab is all around creating that personal balance sheet. And I just called it my financial resources. So it's looking at, okay, what are my financial resources currently? A lot of people like to bury their head in the sand, don't want to know about it. But if you're ready, this is probably the best and most important step to take. So you know exactly where you are. And it's simply a matter of looking at what are the things that you own. So here I'd be including obviously any accounts, bank accounts that you have where you've got money sitting in there. If it's if you've got high interest accounts, not very high at the moment, but high interest accounts, if you've got, funds for emergency, if you've got a superannuation account, if you've got shares, if you've got an investment property, all of those items would be outlined here. So it's really including what are the key assets that you have that have a value that you own. And then you, in the section below, what I owe, you're going to then include things that you owe. So if you have a credit card, include your credit card balances there. If you've got a HEX debt, include that there. If in the what I own section is a house, might be your personal residence. If you've got a corresponding mortgage against it, you would have the mortgage value there. So it's simply working through and thinking about what is it that I own and that you would be able to sell relatively easily as well. So you don't need to itemize all of your household items, but it's really, those key assets that you have. Does that make sense in terms of that first starting place? Does anybody have any questions relating to that sort of personal balance sheet and the value that it could bring to you as well, for you to sort of sit down and say, okay, right, where am I currently with my finances? All good, thanks, Nav. Okay. Beautiful. So that's the first part of the worksheet is taking yourself through that. And obviously here as well, you would include, if you've got a car, if there's a corresponding loan to it, it would be included in what you owe. So what's the remaining amount balance that you owe on that car? If all of those key asset items that you have. The next tab along titled My Personal Resources. So that's where I was talking about, making sure that you've got a space to reflect and take note and take stock of the softer skills and your inner resources. So, your financial well-being is not just going to be about the money that you have, but it's what you do with it and how you manage it and how you think about it, how you feel about it. And that's all to do with your inner resources. So really important. And what you'll find here, what I'm taking you through in these first 3 initial steps is something that if you feel like it clicks with you and it's something that works, it's certainly a practice that if you can continue to do and update, even to review it every 6 months, can be really, really valuable. And you'll definitely see an improvement in terms of how you're thinking and feeling about your money, your financial, your dollars and cents will also change. So it can become a living document, if you like. I've got quite a few students who really found great value in it last year, and have adapted. You can obviously make it your own, if there's colors you don't like or the way it's laid out, feel free to modify it, but the core of it, in what it delivers to you in terms of the information that it delivers, is where you're going to get the value. So this next tab is really about giving you that space to identify, think about, reflect on, your emotions around money, what you think about it. Have you got someone that you talk to about it? Who do you talk to about it? How do you currently feel about your finances? So in the first step, you've actually listed, what your financial position is. And having done that process, you might have, you know, some particular thoughts and feelings that might come up. It might trigger, you know, something from, you know, a childhood situation, whatever it might be. This is really just that space to make sure that you're giving yourself, if it's not somebody you have to talk to about it, but you've got somewhere to put those thoughts and feelings as you're working through it. Really important too to think about what are some of your habits and beliefs around money as well, looking at both the positive and the negative, you know, some of those ones that you might want to change. What are some of the things that you do with money that you feel are really positive and are healthy habits, and maybe some that you want to improve. Also looking at beliefs around money, you know, what you think about it. A lot of us, it's really hard to avoid a lot of the influence of culture and movies growing up where the bad person was greedy and rich, and you know, really looking and giving yourself some time and space to think and challenge some of those beliefs and think, well, is that correct? You know, are there people, you know, in the world that can actually take place of that role and say that no, there's actually people who have done well financially and they're contributing and they do donate and they're positive contributors to society, as opposed to always being this evil Disney World, you know, bad person in the movies. So really interesting to help you, you know, make sure you've got that space. I'm really happy to talk through some of that with any of you if you want to, in those one-on-one sessions. And really important too, as I was saying, you know, the skills and experiences that you have, they're amazing for bringing into your financial life. So don't forget about them, and you'll be growing them as you're doing your studies as well. And you know, we're continually evolving and changing. So yeah, make sure that you bring, even, you know, for many of you being international students, just that ability to, you know, manage change and be flexible and you know, experience new things and learn new things. All of those skills are really important for your financial life too. So acknowledging those will bring them to the front of your mind, and you actually find yourself using them more when you're making your financial decisions, and you'll feel more confident too, which is really important. And the third tab for this week to work through is the section that's called My Money Flow. So I've tried to use non-accounting technical words as much as possible and to make it feel friendly as possible. But in this section, as I described, what you're going to look at is looking back before we look forward and set those goals, is to look at, okay, where has my money come from? How have I spent it? It's amazing how powerful this exercise is. So just, you know, doing that transaction listing from your internet banking, looking at and categorizing, okay, how much did I actually spend in a 12-month period on groceries, on clothes, on Netflix, on whatever it might be. And some of it may be really positive stuff too. It may be that you donated a lot and you're really generous in terms of how you've used your money. But all of that information is going to inform when you look to what we do next week, which will be all around setting goals, you know, for the next 6 to 12 months. And then also looking at how do they feed into longer term goals as well. So this is really important. This can take a bit of time, depending on how you manage your money and how many accounts you have and how you pay for things, but really, really valuable. I couldn't emphasize it enough. Give yourself a little bit of time this week ahead of term 2 starting next week to have a look and see where your money is going. So they're the 3 sections of the worksheets that I'd like to work through. Now I'm just going to jump across and actually go into the worksheets to make sure that you can navigate them. So just let me do that. So I'll stop that one. And one. So this is what you should all have arrived in your email box yesterday. So what we've just had a look at, and this is the complete worksheet. So this is all that I want you to work through in this 3-part series. So you're going to work through these first 3 tabs to begin with, and hopefully you can do those by this time next week, and that will give you some really good, rich information to help you for when we're looking at defining our financial goals. And that's really what we'll have a look at, what we can define in this final tab. but we'll also have a look at making a plan for that as well. So I should probably reorder those if we were going to follow along with the webinars, is that you'll set your financial priorities and then you'll make a plan for you to achieve those. So it may be that after doing this, you might realize things about your financial situation that you would like to change. Some of them might be, purely financial, but most of them will have financial, and then there'll be some behavioral and emotional parts to them too. So it might be that you find yourself spending more money than you would like on something particular. If it's groceries, there's things that you lose track of. So then you might need to then have a look at, well, how can I help support myself to change that and to change my habits and spending around my groceries. So you can establish what you would like to spend. This is the planning process that we'll get to. So you'll next week look at, defining what is my goal going to be. What is my plan, my financial plan? How do I want my money to flow? If I've looked at it over the past 12 months, and some of it you might be happy with, some of it you might be surprised about. And then it's really taking the next step to say, well, how do I want it to look, for the next 6 to 12 months? And once you then create that plan, you need to support yourself with systems and ways to help those behaviors, maybe some of those less functional behaviors that you might have observed. Look at some techniques for working on those, which we can talk about in the third webinar. So it's really these first 3 tabs that you'll work through in the next week. How's everybody feeling about working through those? Any responses? Just initial thoughts even? Has anybody done something like this before? Great. Okay, so Rebecca's saying you haven't really done much. Maggie, you're saying so you do it every month already?
I do.
Yes. Okay, great. And how do you do it? In a similar kind of way, or what do you do?
Usually your bank statements are very good at allowing you to export CSV documents, which I convert into an Excel document. And then and then you can create pivot tables from there, which actually show you how much you're actually spending. Mm-hmm. And it was shocking. It can be shocking sometimes to see how much money you spend. It's really about setting out your categories and knowing, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much money on eating out on a regular basis. And it's just really about that. And then you can find out where your disposable income really is, if you have any. Yeah. And of course, the other thing too is it can show you, like for me, I guess, locking in my interest rates on my mortgage recently helped to drop my my rate, which meant that I could create some disposable income and put it into other areas.
Yeah, great. So that's that's the pure power of all of this, is that it's informing decisions, and with this information, it allows you to make really good quality decisions. If you hadn't have done that and you didn't have that understanding of where your money was going, you might make a decision based on maybe what somebody else had said, or you'd just think, oh, I don't really spend that much on groceries. You'd keep doing it. It's until you actually have this information in front of you that it really gives you, as you said, it can be a bit shocking at first. But I imagine that as you do it, you keep informing yourself. Did you then set a target for yourself? So you must have done a similar kind of thing and then realized, oh my goodness, I spend so much on groceries. What did you then do about it?
It was actually more my eating out that actually I realized I just stopped it. I mean, I stopped being, and it's going to sound horrible, but I stopped being generous. Like often, I'll pick that up. I'll grab the tab. And you think, $50 here, $100 there, it really doesn't make a difference. It makes such a difference. And I just quit being, and really it didn't mean a change in behavior, and sometimes choosing not to go out. But at the end of the day, if you want to have certain things like improve your car or whatever it is, then you have to find ways to save that money.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And really nice what I think I can hear too, which is really important, which which will come out of going through this process, is that it'll allow you to become quite clear about what it is that you value and what's really important to you. So whilst obviously for many of us, yes, generosity is part of that. But first and foremost, it's almost like the Maslow's hierarchy that we all get bored to death of. But you've got to look after your own needs in terms of enabling that money that you have stewardship of at the moment, for whatever reason it is. This is the job that you do. This is the money that you're earning right now. What are the decisions? How am I going to use this money to look after myself, to look after my family, to fuel my future? Some of that, there's part of that can be generosity, but as you're saying, you can get into habits where you just out of, oh yeah, I'll pay for that, or I'll do this, or that person needs this money, or oh my goodness, I need to donate that. It's you need to make sure that you've got boundaries and a good understanding of where you are to inform those kind of decisions, to say, right, okay, this is and obviously feeds into you've made some really great takeaways to actions taken to renegotiate your mortgage, which gives you also, it sounds like if you've got some of that fixed, it's giving you a little bit more certainty too about a particular expense that was going out as well. And it gives you then another amount of money that frees up money that you can then think about, okay, well, what am I going to do with this?
And one of the biggest things, if you don't mind me just saying this last thing, and I promise to be quiet after that, is that it allowed me to reassess my work last year and determine that I could change career or change employer and take a pay cut because I had done the financials. And it got me out of a very stressful working situation into a much better working environment, which I don't make as much money anymore, but I've got far better mental health.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's another incredible value of doing this. And for us all, I know we spend so much time, and obviously it's important as you all are studying and investing so much time in your studies and bettering yourself for your careers, and absolutely. But this as a fundamental life skill, to know that this is enabling that, you need to understand where you are with your finances. It's not an awful thing that's only, left to people who are greedy or who are obsessed or an accountant or whatever. It's for everybody to understand where they are. And that's beautiful that it's been able to enable you to have a career change or move to employer where you're happier, and enables better mental health. And you wouldn't have been able to do that. Well, you might have done it without the information, but I would be very sure that you wouldn't have had that same mental health, benefit, because some of it you might worry. You might think, oh my gosh, I've taken this pay cut. Am I not better off? It could be a source of worry, but it actually gave you a source of strength, which is what I really wanted from these sessions too, is that having that information gives you that source of strength to make really powerful, important decisions like that for your life as well, which is brilliant. And that's the point of money too. It's meant to fuel your purpose, your passions, your values, and you look after yourself. If that means being able to look at different job options as well, which is brilliant. Because as we look at where our money's coming and going, if it was that you looked at how much you were earning, in a really nice scenario, somebody could be earning a lot more than they need, and it could enable them to see, okay, well, I actually don't need to be doing this really stressful, high paid but high, stress job. I could shift and change that, and my lifestyle wouldn't change that much. I might be able to save, this amount less. And you can also, we'll look at some tools in the coming weeks about, and I've got some topics coming up this month as well around investing, looking at what are some of the options as well to make sure that you're still funding, retirement and long-term. But all of this is really giving you information. And that's the key thing, is really about better quality information for decision-making, and knowing where you are financially. So that's wonderful. So thanks for sharing, Maggie, as well, your experience. I'm sure that's really helpful for everyone just to listen, and to motivate people to hear the benefit that you've had from going through this kind of process. so I can see that some maybe have not done it before at all. And I understand that the sentiment too of feeling a little bit lazy around it too. It's definitely not something that everybody feels super motivated to do. But I couldn't, even if it's just on this week, because you've got a little bit of extra time where maybe you might, like to do something for yourself. This is something for yourself. And the benefit of it, I don't know anyone who I've taken through this process, if in a workshop style like this or one-on-one, hasn't been just changed by it. They just, even somebody who's really not somebody who likes numbers or spreadsheets, the value of going through this is really incredible. So, and nice, Belinda, so you're talking about the fact that you track your monthly spending and you review it every 6 months. So that sounds like a really positive process that you've gone through. Is any of this going to help or change what you do at the moment, Belinda?
Yeah, look, it's at the moment I'm gathering the information. I guess it's just a new way to present it in terms of adapting the budgets moving forward.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And also to take, because I know what I used to do I used to spend a lot of time tracking what had happened. So I spent all my time reviewing that and going over it and over and over it. And I shifted to doing it once, and then you might check in every year, at the end of every year, just to check in that, the budget that you'd set for yourself, that you stuck to. But it's really about creating systems that make sure that you stick to it and you don't even have to think about it. So it's things like not using a credit card, because you obviously, all the research shows you spend 17 to 25% more if you use a credit card. So have a debit card, have an amount in there that that's the set amount that I have set aside for household groceries, eating out for the next 2 weeks. That's the money, and that's all that you use. If there's particular things, some little tips and strategies, which we'll get into more next week, particularly if there's areas where people do find that they just overspend, and eating out is definitely one of them. Some people really find it beneficial at first to kind of break a habit and reel back on that spending, is to actually use cash, which seems really old school, but it could be using a debit card, or it could be actually taking it out physically. And what you're learning to sort of see, and you actually question and think about how much you're spending when you do that. So it's about, looking back over the last 12 months, which is what you'll do with these worksheets, get a really good feeling and understanding of that. You'll probably be noting and be surprised about where it's going. But then we're going to use that information to inform our plan. And then once we have our plan, we're going to look at strategies that help us stick. So the plan is really going to be your budget. It's going to be saying, okay, what is it that I want to achieve in the next 12 months? Is it that you want to save up money, because save up $10,000 for a car, or you want to save up to study somewhere else? Save up so you can work part-time because you want to care for somebody in your family. Whatever your goal is over the next 12 months, we're going to look at defining that next week. And then in the third workshop, we're going to look at, well, how do we do that? So it's not just about saying, well, to do that, I need to make sure that I only spend, $300 on groceries a week. Not just saying that, but looking at, okay, so how am I going to make sure that I do that without having to do a big transaction listing, every week or every month and going back, because that's actually looking at behaviors that have already occurred. It's saying, okay, what can I do to make sure that I don't, go over that? And maybe it's just the process of knowing that, okay, I spend $300. So I only put $300 in that debit account. You might have a couple of different cards that you use, know that that's just groceries. And once that 300 is done, it's done. I'm not going to go back and, even if I really have a craving for something, I'm not going to spend it. So it's looking at, what are some of those systems that can help you as well to make all of this as easy as possible, so you're not having to constantly think about it once you've set up your plan. And to keep reminding yourself too, and knowing, because it gives purpose to your money as well, and purpose to the plan that you come up with, because your money and what you're saving, you've got a reason why. So it might be, all of those different reasons I've already just described, you'll know why. If you sort of set yourself a little bit of structure and boundaries around your spending, sometimes people can feel, restricted, and they get frustrated and they think, well, I'm working so hard, and why can't I just always buy that thing that I want? And you can say, well, this is the finances, this is the money that I have at this current point in time. This is what I'm earning. This is what I'm stewarding. And this is what I want to achieve in this year. So to do that, you've only got two levers. So either you're going to try and earn more money, change a job, whatever it might be, or look at things that you can spend less, that will enable you to, buy that car or go overseas or change a job and work part-time. So yeah, really important to sort of have it's sort of the worksheets, the power of them are not the worksheets themselves, but it's often the thinking that goes along as you're working through them. And it won't be really straightforward. What I would anticipate is that you would get all of the data. That's really straightforward, and just a matter of, adding up the numbers and working all of that out. And I'd probably set yourself, a certain amount of time to do that over the next week. But then what will come out of it, maybe print it out somewhere. So what would be helpful is for you to actually reflect on the figures that you see and think about it, how you feel about it, because some of that will probably continue sort of to pop in your mind over the next week as well. And it's going to be really powerful, that information and those feelings that you'll have, because it will also help you it will inform what you do value and what you don't value. You might look at the money flow that you've identified, so what you've spent in the last 12 months. You might get annoyed at yourself, you might be happy with yourself that you didn't overspend in that area. So it's going to be all sorts of emotions working through this. So really important to make sure you've got a space to write them down, talk about them with somebody, if you've got somebody, if it's a partner or a parent or a good friend, because those, having a positive relationship with money, which Maggie sounds like she's quite advanced in terms of how you're managing it and how aware you are of where your money is going and the decisions you're making, which is really great. But you'll know that it's and from that experience, probably for everybody as well, it's so much of the emotional piece around money as much as the dollars and cents. So really important just to make sure that you're gentle on yourselves as well as you're going through this process, because I know that it can be quite hairy as well. But I hope that you enjoy it, working through it today. If you can do it today as we get off this, if you've got time, if you've got a bit of motivation to sort of nut it out, that would be really amazing. Yeah, that's really true as well. Thanks, Maggie, for your comment there. It helps you to say, it tells you whether you can say yes or no. And I think what I would probably add to that as well, to make it feel less restrictive, is that you're still in the driver's seat. So these are your resources. It often helps me, and it might be for others too, but it might just be because I've worked in corporate business a lot, and I find it helpful to think about your finances. It's almost like another entity. It's what you have to care for, and you're in charge of making the decisions about where you're going to allocate those funds, just like you would if you were CFO, trying to achieve a business goal. Organizations have strategic goals that they've got to achieve. They've got set amounts of financial resources, and they've got set workers, and you've got to put that money to work to achieve those goals. And that's really the position that we're all in with our own finances as well. So remembering that we are almost, and it's probably been oversaid, but you're kind of the CFO, in your own life for your own resources, and taking, honoring that position and that role is really important too, particularly as women as well, which has been an area where women have typically historically been less involved, but really important that you can feel comfortable in that role as well. And it doesn't mean that you've got to know everything or have the answer or feel like you're making better financial decisions than somebody else. It's not about that at all. It's actually about knowing yourself, knowing what you can do and you can't do, and seeking advice when you need it. But yeah, so I think I'm starting to ramble now, sorry, after a long day. But I really hope that this first session has been helpful, at least to talk through how you can use those financial wellbeing worksheets to get yourself started, to get a good foundation in understanding where you are currently financially. And I hope through what we've talked about here is that you can really see the value and the power of understanding that. So for some of you, you've done a bit of it before, for some of you, not at all. But I'd really encourage you, even if my worksheets aren't the same as yours, try working through them. Just, suspend your judgment just to sort of see how, they may be beneficial for you and sort of really helping your financial life. So does anybody have any other sort of final questions or comments before we sort of wrap up for tonight? Lovely. Thank you, Maggie. That's lovely for you to say. It's been so nice to have you all here as well. And just to I've missed going back to my slides, but my final thing, I think you're quite clear in terms of what we're going to be looking at in the next 2 weeks as well. And really the key thing would be, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot, of course, but if you can work through those first 3 tabs and understanding where you are financially, we'll move on to setting financial goals next week. So it'd be great if you've done that work, and it will really help, particularly if you've got any questions as well around what you did. We can certainly, if you've gone through working through the spreadsheets and you do have questions, feel free to reach out as well. I'm happy to even do a session helping you sort of set it all up as well. Beautiful. Lovely. Thank you, Shabna. Thank you, Susan. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Maren. Wonderful. And just a reminder too, in terms of the one-on-one sessions that you can have with me, it's just a matter of reaching out to Craig through the help desk email address with the SCPA, emailing him to get in contact with me. And it's really, there's no strings attached. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to, I know often people can feel like that with financial stuff. Really just here as a support, as an educator and as a counselor. If there's anything particular that you're working through, more than happy to make the time to really support you. And that's really what we've tried to do in this partnership too, is to provide you with these resources and services to help with your financial life. So lovely, thank you.
So look, everyone, look, thanks for coming along. And Liz, thanks again for such a wonderful workshop. We're really grateful to have you to help our students along and succeed. Look, everyone, if you feel like you'd like some one-on-one sessions with Liz, I've just posted up on the chat my email address. If you can just contact me, and then I'll put you through to Liz, and we can book a session for you. But also, I'd like to remind you that, look, Southern Cross Postgraduate Association is your postgraduate student association. It's run by students, for students, providing services and events and so on to help postgraduate students to succeed. And membership is free. If you like what we're doing, then we'd enjoy your support. Please feel free to come to our website. I've also put that there on the chat, scpa.net.au. If you come and visit our website, it's really easy just to sign up and become a member, and we'd love to see you there. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Liz. And hope this was a great value to you all, and I hope to see you all again next week.
Thank you.
See you later, Liz. Okay.
Bye.
I'm out of here.
Everyone.
Okay.
Cheers.